Andy is in St Margaret's. Morning to you, Andy.
Yes, good morning to you too.
Deep breath.
Well, it's that time of year. We need to, don't we? A lot has gone on.
A lot has gone on.
Exactly.
Well, this is phone-in amnesty, and within obvious limits, whatever is on your mind.
Be careful, you're dealing with one of those types.
What, you?
Free, my friend.
Yeah, well, you know the world is almost free, but it has limits.
It's not free, it's captive.
Right, go on.
And they are trying to control us more.
Who's they?
And more and more. They want to put a chip up our backside. They want to put...
Who's they?
The elites, the ruling class. They want to put a ring for our noses and a visor for our horizons.
Name me one person who is the establishment.
The Rothschilds.
Okay.
Don't get funny with me. You want to get serious with me? We'll get serious.
Hang on. Excuse me.
Don't treat me lightly. Don't treat me lightly.
I'm not treating you lightly. I'm asking you a question. And if you're going to be like that, I won't let you carry on. I asked you a question. Do you know why I asked you the question?
My ball and you're not playing, is it that?
No,
okay.
It's not. Why?
Right.
Is this how you go through life?
Every time.
You go through life starting an argument where there was no argument to begin with.
No, I forgive. My apologies. Carry on.
Let me tell you why I asked you that question. Because often people talk about the elite and they talk about the establishment without really giving an idea about who they believe the elite and the establishment are. So for you, the elite/establishment is about old money.
It's not just about old money. It's about the Zionists. It's about...
Who are the Zionists?
Well, do you know who... Okay. Who are the Zionists?
Yeah. What power do they wield?
Okay, the Zionists... Right, good question. The Zionists were about 100 years ago. I forget the man who essentially, like Karl Marx, who essentially drove the philosophy of Zionism. But it's Zionist Jews, okay? And he was a guy about 100 years ago who wanted to say, I want to create a Israeli state, right? Because it was Palestine, okay? And most of the Jews of the world come from Eastern Europe, from a place called, originally, an empire called Khazaria. And they turned to Judaism about the 7th to the 8th century. They're not from Palestine. They came from there. And the Rothschilds, the people who own the Bank of England, the people who own the Federal Reserve, they're all Zionist Jews. The people who own the corporate America, the media, you'll find, if you just do a little bit of research, they're all Zionist Jews. We are ruled by Zionist Jews.
How are you ruled? I mean, there's two things. I mean, in terms of Zionism and in terms of the creation of Israel, I was under the impression, and I'm sure many of our listeners were too, that came out of the end of the Second World War, where the League of Nations / United Nations, as they later became, decided that this was probably one of the best solutions in order to ensure the safety of a race of people who were almost exterminated in the Second World War. You don't believe that's the case?
Well, you have to understand that, well, for a start, the history of Jews, okay, from Palestine, that area of Judaism, okay, it's a long, long history, thousands of years, has nothing to do with Zionism. You'll find a lot. We have been not told anything in this country, but in the mainstream media. But the Zionism is about the state of Israel. But if you go to true Judaism, they're against the state of Israel. Those guys with the hats and the curly hair, they have huge pressure.
These are the ultra-Orthodox. Jews?
They're just true Judaists. So
well, no, you know that in every religion there are various grades and styles and specific sects of religion, and we know that in a lot there are reform religions, there are liberal religions, there are extremely orthodox religions, and you also know that the people who dress as you speak are Orthodox Jews.
Orthodox Jews from different sects, but many of that sect, of various sects, they are against the state of Israel for philosophical, religious reasons, spiritual reasons, and you won't ever see that on our media.
Why do you have such an interest in what some would say is quite a narrow aspect of what you talked about, control?
Narrow, because the point about it is it's all fundamentally so hugely wide. They control the money.
It seems you're saying that it is only Jews that wield control in the world. Because you haven't named me any aspect of life that is not Jewish.
Right. 80% of corporate America, of the media, is owned by Jews, right? And they're Zionist Jews. I'm against Zionism, not Judaism. I'm against Zionism because I believe in the state of Palestine. And the funny thing is, before Israel was created, and I understand the security of the Jews feeling secure, but before, it was the Europeans that actually oppressed and killed the Jews, not the Palestinians, not the Arabs. And the Arabs themselves in Palestine, they were the safest ever.
What would you have done post Second World War? You found out of what was happening in Hitler's Nazi Germany. You found out what was happening in some other countries nearby that Hitler had control over. You found out the numbers of Jews that had lost their lives. And there is a debate. Listen, I'm not saying there is no debate. Clearly, there is a debate about whether Israel in its current form should be where it is, whether the rights of the Palestinians have been outweighed by the rights of the Israelis, whether some of the decisions that were made, possibly some would perceive as in haste at the end of the Second World War, were the right decisions. But based upon what your own views are, what would you have done at that stage?
Well, yet again, the British Empire that has created huge problems for the future.
Right. What would you have done?
Well, Balfour created essentially the state of Israel. It was a land, Palestine, that the British had a protectorate over.
Right. This is what you wouldn't have done, and I'm only moving on because we're going to run out of time in a few moments. I know you'll want to make your point. So that is what you wouldn't have done. But what would you have done?
About what?
You said you understood the security implications on the Jews at that time. You said that actually it was Europe who were most likely to be the people who were...
Germans.
Well, you talked about Europe.
No, but you said Germans. Germans are the people who killed them, right? Eastern Jews.
But you mentioned it was the threat to Jews came from Europe and not from the Palestinians. That is what you
Arabs, exactly.
Yeah, so that's why I'm repeating what you said. That's why I'm repeating Europe, not Germans. Right? I didn't want to put words in your mouth.
You mentioned Second World War.
I'm asking what you would have done at the end of the Second World War, because you said you understood the security implications that were there. So what would you have done instead?
Well, we shouldn't have done anything that said. The bottom line is Palestine.
But you said you just said you understood that there were security implications. And
I said I understand the fears of what Jews felt when the pogroms and the annihilation. But you have to understand. Do you know how many Red Indians were lost in America? How many were cleared out? How many were decimated in America? 17 million. Do you know how many Aborigines have been? We keep going on about the Jews.
No. With due respect, you're the only one who's done that.
No, I'm doing it now, but I'm saying as mainstream media, they keep banging on about the Jews and the Holocaust. There have been many Holocausts.
Well, there may have been, but I mean, I think there's two things on that. One, often the reason why certainly the Middle East is in the news is because there's live conflict going on, and there is not such conflict going on in the two other places you talk about, in America and in Australia. So that is one thing.
Because they wiped them out.
No, I understand that.
Thank you.
I understand that.
17 million Red Indians.
Yeah, I totally upset. I understand that. I understand the point you're making.
Right. It's about time we recognise that fact. The bottom line is...
But I think we know... We've spoken about this...
No, we don't know
Well, hang on.
We don't
know. Hang on.
As a general populace, we don't know that.
Okay, well, if you listen to this programme, you will know, because often people talk about that, and I know we've spoken about it. We've had a lot of American listeners
about Red
to
Indians
the station,
being wiped out.
and we speak about how America came to be. We speak about the issues that most countries have in their dim and darkest histories, about how they came to be the countries that they are.
No, we're talking about numbers, my friend. We're talking about numbers. Numbers. Okay, let's get down to bottom line numbers. We keep on about 6 million Jews.
I haven't mentioned that. You have. Right, carry on.
Let's get to the numbers, shall we? Red Indians, it's approximated about 17 million were wiped out.
Yes. And in which year?
When they colonized...
In which year?
Not in 1 year.
No, but I'm talking about in which era. Tell me the eras you're talking about in these other stories.
In America, when the Western powers took over America, they wiped out, it's the approximations of about 17 million.
Tell me when.
Over a period of, I would say, I can't say specifically, but I would try and get as narrow to what your question is. You're going over about 150-year period.
Right. And do you not think the reason why the Holocaust is debated and discussed more, because some of the people involved who went through that are still living? That is the nature of news.
It's got nothing to do with that. It's got nothing to do with that. The bottom line is...
You're telling me that because some of the people who perpetrated the Holocaust, and because some of the people who suffered and survived the Holocaust are still living, that has nothing to do with the fact that some of that is discussed more than stuff that some people perceive as more distant in history.
Right. So you're really trying to tell me...
It's a question. I'm not telling you anything. I'm asking you a question.
You're asking me a question. Fair enough. Are you going to allow me to speak?
Yes. If you answer the question...
Because you've done a lot of trivia tonight, so now you've got to be profound.
I don't have to do anything. Go on, carry on.
No. This is our station. It's the people's station, okay?
And I'm giving you more than I have done anyone, which is why I know I've got to finish the call soon.
You're giving me this point because you know you've never heard this before. So you're hearing someone who's saying something...
Okay. I'm going to tell you what I tell everybody else who starts to shout at me.
I'm not shouting.
There is no need to shout at me.
I'm being firm with you.
Well, that's fine. That's the point of view.
Don't try and dominate me. Okay? Let's just talk on a level playing field.
It's level. It's level, but in the sense that I am trying to get to your point before I have to move on.
Okay, so the point is, what I'm saying to you, right, let's get down to the bottom line of where we are now.
But you're not going to answer my last question.
Sorry, just remind me, just briefly over your last question about time. You're talking about timescales.
I said, do you think the reason why the Holocaust is discussed more than the other stories from history you mentioned is because those people who perpetrated some of the Holocaust and those people who suffered in the Holocaust are still alive?
No, and I'll tell you the reason why I say that, because there are Red Indians who have suffered, their families from the past have suffered.
That's from the past. I understand the point, but it's
past.
from... Yeah, exactly. And
so
what
how
I'm
far
saying
do you want to go back? I mean,
no, I'm just saying that you were talking about the reason why things are never discussed. The nature of debate is the closest it is to you, the closest in time it is, the more it is discussed. That's not true.
But the reason why it's not discussed is because we're dominated by the Jewish system. The financial Jewish system. The Rothschilds control us. In the Bank of England, the Federal Reserve is run by Zionist Jews.
All right. Going to leave it there only because we're back to where we started on that conversation.